Today we're going to be talking about how to set up crops and bleeds for odd-shaped artwork in Adobe Illustrator. Now I'll start by saying this method may vary depending on the printer that you're working with. Some print vendors will want you to go through all of these steps, some vendors will only want you to set up the bleeds but not have any crop marks, others will have their own process. It all depends on the vendor, but this will give you a good idea of the general process. Now this method for setting up crops and bleeds is most helpful for any die cut piece. So we're thinking about stickers, decals, cardboard cutouts, custom boxes, anything with a unique shape that needs to be custom cut. So here we have our irregularly shaped avocado. Let's say that we want to turn this into a printed decal with bleeds and trim lines before sending it off to print. First things first, we're going to need to extend our bleeds so the vendor doesn't mistrim our shape and leave any white around the edges. To do that, I'm going to select the outside of our shape, so in our case, the edge of our avocado. Then to extend our shape and give it bleeds, we just want to go up to Object, Path, and then Offset Path. This will create a new path that is a certain amount inside or outside of the path we have right now. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now with this dialog box, we want to give our object an 1/8 of an inch bleed all the way around. That's the standard across most print vendors that you'll be working with. Now by default, this box may be listed in pixels. Don't worry about that. Even if it shows up pixels, you can still type any measurement you want into the box. So in our case, we'll just type 0.125, which is an 1/8 of an inch. And then you can either type IN or you can type in the quotation mark as well. Either way, Illustrator will know what you're trying to do. And then we'll just hit OK. And just like that, our bleed is extended and ready to go. Next, let's go ahead and build our trim line. This is going to tell our vendor where we want the artwork to be cut out. Conveniently, we already have almost everything we need for our trim line. Our offset path made an entirely new path that we'll be using for our extended bleed, but it left our original path right here. That marks the original border of our object. So we can actually just repurpose that as our trim line. So with that path selected, we'll just flip the color to be a stroke instead of a fill, which you can do either by clicking this little arrowed line here or with the shortcut Shift X. Then we can just double click on that stroke color, and we'll change that to something that'll show up well in our artwork. I usually use cyan for my trim lines unless the artwork is also that same color. But you can use whatever works for you as long as it's very visible by your vendor. So we'll just hit OK, and we've got our trim line. Now we can quickly set up our bleed line. To do that, we'll just select the outside of our bleed that we set up, and with that selected, we'll go up to Edit, Copy, or use the shortcut Control-C or Command-C on a Mac. And then we'll go back up to Edit, Paste in Front, or use the shortcut Control-F or Command-F on a Mac. Now it didn't change much visually, but that made a copy of our outside shape and placed it on top of our artwork. And then just like before, we'll go down and we'll swap those colors using either this arrow button or the Shift X shortcut again. And then we'll double click on that color, and this time we'll switch that color to be 100% magenta. And then we'll just hit OK. All right, so now we have our bleeds, our trim line, and our bleed lines all set up. Now the last thing I like to do is move our printer marks to their own layer. This way it's easier for both us and the printer to deal with if we need to. So let's go ahead and click on our trim line, and then holding the Shift key, we'll click on our bleed line as well. So with both of those selected, we'll head over to our Layers panel. If you don't see this panel, you can go up to Window, Layers, or use the shortcut F7 to bring that up as well. So now we'll just create a new layer, and we'll call this one Printer Marks. And here you'll see one option that you can either choose to use or not depending on your print vendor. You can see we have this checkbox here that says Print, and by default that's checked on. That means that any objects on this layer will be able to be printed. So if we were to uncheck that box and you tried printing this document, even on your home printer, anything on this layer would be invisible, so it wouldn't print those printer marks. Now that can be a really useful feature that helps ensure those lines don't get printed. But the downside is often we're saving our print files as PDFs before we send them to the vendor, and by unchecking this box, it also makes those printer marks invisible in the PDF as well. So with the print vendors I've worked with, I usually leave this box checked, just as it is. And then I just tell the print vendor not to print those marks. Again, talking to your print vendor is the key to all of this. So for now, I'm just going to leave that box checked and hit OK. Now, back in our layers panel, you can see this little square on the side that shows us which layer our selected objects are currently on. To move our selection to our new layer, all we have to do is click and drag this little box to our new layer. And just like that, we can see if we turn this layer off and on, our printer marks turn on and off right along with it. And that's it. That's how we make our bleed, trim lines, and bleed lines for irregularly shaped artwork in Adobe Illustrator. And now that you've mastered this technique, why not learn about all of the amazing things that you can do with the blend tool in Adobe Illustrator? I have a video right here to show you some of the really cool things that you can do.